I wanted to start with, I watched the video last week and I realized I said something that I didn't mean. So I think y'all know what I meant, but I want to make sure that we know. I was talking at one point about John's relationship and actually the chapter 1, when John sees Jesus at that point and he falls on his flat face. And I kept saying, this isn't the Jesus that he walked with. This isn't the Jesus. And I was like, this is the Jesus that he walked with. It's different. It's a different time. And it's Jesus after he's ascended. That's really the point I was trying to make. But I made too much of a point of this isn't the Jesus. So I just really want to go on record as saying, this is the same Jesus. There isn't a different Jesus. Okay. So, and if I say those kinds of things, please correct me so I can hear what I just said. And I usually catch my crazy, stupid things I say, but not always. So be with me and help me. Okay. As we get into our lesson this week, we're in lesson 3 of Revelation part 2. And we are in what we call 3 weeks of picturing Revelation. And why do we say picturing Revelation? Because we're drawing, if you're drawing. I hope you did see that you had the option of writing things out. And I have a tendency to do both. Because there's sometimes I just can't figure out how I would write it if I were to write it. So, and sometimes there'll be something in the text like things that we saw even in chapter 4 where it said the lamps that are before the throne, these are the spirits of, 7 spirits of God. Well, how do you draw that? Except for the lamps, I can't draw that it says that. So, or words, I'll do the word bubbles and if something is actually said, or songs are sung or whatever else, I'll put those on there. So we are not being graded.
Good thing.
Yes. Your artistic ability does not mean whether or not you have it. Sandy said she was going to ask Joan for her drawings, which is not a bad idea either. But the value of this, tell me, what is the value of doing this?
Help you remember.
Helps you remember. Why does it help you remember?
Because it's a picture. It's not just words.
Okay.
And you're actually reading the words and making your own picture. You're drawing.
There you go.
That.
Absolutely. There's so much value in seeing something. And you're going to see your drawing in your mind. As scary as that might be, you might see it in your mind. But it requires a very careful reading of the text, doesn't it?
Yes.
This was a very detailed reading of the text to try to figure out how would you represent that. You might have had a few wadding it up and throwing it away because erasing just wasn't going to do it. Or you might have been able to just read the whole thing and visualize it and put it out there. So I think it's going to be, hope it's going to be for you more than just facts, that you're going to have seen some things that are beyond even just the facts that we're going to go over. But we are going to go over the facts. We started this week leaving off chapters 1, 2, and 3, and pretty much from this point on, we're not going to really look at those as much because we covered those very extensively in part 1. We have looked at them in the first 2 weeks to get ourselves into context, but from this point forward, we're dealing with which segment division of the book?
The second and third.
Or part 2 of Revelation, the study. Third, thank you. Third segment division, which is, well, let's name all of them. The first, and where did we find it?
119.
There you go, Sandy. Always tells me 119. She's very good. I can always count on her. Not that you don't ever, but she's right here and I can hear her. But 119 gives us one way to divide this book up or outline this book or segment divided. It's a word that Precept uses, or Kay uses. And it gives us how many segment divisions? 3. The first is
The things that John had seen.
the things which John had seen. He is directed to write the things that you have seen. And where is that covered? Chapter 1. The second segment division is the things which are, and that's covered by chapters 2 and 3. The third segment division is which will take place after these things, and that's chapters 4 through 22. All right, so that's what the bulk of the rest of our study, this part is going to be, actually all 3 parts are going to be, more parts are going to be covering, is we're going to be focusing on, not that the first 3 chapters are not important, it's just that we're now focusing on that third segment division. And I will tell you that there probably will be, over the time, other ways of segment dividing the book. Okay? You can come up with your own personal ones, and there's nothing wrong with that unless you're actually wrong, you know. But if you stick to the text, you're rarely wrong. If you, again, come up with some bizarre stuff that, like your segment dividing John, the book, and you put it in Revelation, then you're probably not right. So there are ways to be wrong. Okay, but as you look through this, there may be other ways, and you may find those. And as you do, go back to that at-a-glance chart. And I'm going to suggest pencil it in for your sake. Later, you might be a little more confident to pen it in. Or there's those pens that erase, or you have whiteout now, you know. We didn't always have whiteout. Yes, thank goodness there's such a thing as whiteout, or the backspace key.
One thing that I found helpful too is after you do your drawings, is to go back and put the verse where that applies to that, the verse number.
I don't know if y'all heard what she said, but she said sometimes she has found that after she does her drawing, she goes back and wherever the part is, maybe mark the verse, like say verse 1 or verse 20. Honestly, and that's actually good. I hadn't thought to do that, because then you can glance down and go back. I know when I make lists, which is another thing we do in inductive study a lot of times, like in my margins, if I want to gather all the information about, let's say, God, I put God, and then I have my list underneath it. I always mark the verse, because then I can look at the verse and go straight back to it and find it easily. So marking the verse and just putting like V1 is a really good idea, not a bad idea at all. And again, if you chose instead just to write out the text, there's value in that as well, because again, you're looking at the details again. It hits different gates. That's one of the learning tools. The more gates, and meaning your all your senses, touch, hearing, eyes, taste, which, you know, John ate the book. Hope you aren't. Smell, you know. But as many of you as you can. So you know, even as you listen to a lecture, if you hear it, you'll retain a certain percentage. If you write it, you will and hear it, you will retain more. If you write it and hear it and say it, you know, you will understand that much more. You retain more. So again, hitting those gates. And it's like when you're trying to memorize scripture, one of the greatest tools is to read it out loud, because you're hitting your eye gate, you're saying it, and you're hearing it again. So it actually helps just to repeat it out loud, or to hear it on a tape is great too. There's different, as much as you can do. We need it because we have failing, decaying memories.
Yeah.
So, and review is good.
Amen to that.
Right. So as we've established that we're in the book of Revelation, and as we've established we kind of haven't done as much review today, but we are starting, we have already talked about the segment divisions, and we're going to start at John, we're going to start on chapter 4, and remembering this is the fourth segment division, and John, who is where, is writing this down. John is on the Isle of Patmos, and he's there because of the testimony of Jesus Christ. He's there as a prisoner. He's there not as a good thing. And how did this vision come to him? Or I say vision, I shouldn't say vision, sorry. How did this revelation, I shouldn't say vision, how did this revelation come to him? Right. It came from God started it, and then God the Father to Jesus the Son, to Jesus' angel, to John. And to the bondservants. And John is a bondservant. That's how he identifies himself. And then it is going after him to the bondservants. This message is from God. And John is the author of it in the sense of he wrote it down. John being the John that did walk with Jesus. We've established that. He has written other books in the New Testament, all of them with the word John. Real easy to identify. But he isn't John the Baptist. That's always the one we want to make sure we make that distinction. Great guy, but not this John. And it is significant that John that walked with Jesus was asked to write this down. From biblical evidence and outside the Bible evidence, John would have been old at this point, and he might at this point be the only surviving of the 12. the original 12 apostles. So
Was he the only one who wasn't martyred?
that's what,
I
again, yes, it seems, yes, because, and I hesitate to say that because not all the deaths are recorded in the Bible. But from what we know of history and all, it seems to be that he's the only one that wasn't martyred, and yet he still is not in a good situation. And I can't imagine surviving what, again, extra biblical evidence says probably happened because it was the practice of dipping them in hot oil. I can't imagine him surviving that at any age, let alone an elderly person. But apparently he did, and God preserved him because, yes, God had a plan. I love the fact, though, that he was with Jesus from almost the beginning of Jesus' earthly ministry, walked with him for those 3.5 years, or about 3.5 years, stood at the foot of the cross, was given the responsibility, in essence, of the mother, Mary, earthly mother of Jesus, Mary, to care for her, before that, I should say, saw him on the Mount of Transfiguration, and now is alive and told and asked to write this down. It is an incredible body of work, in a way of putting it. Okay, so as we have come through, we had the chapters 2 and 3, which dealt with the messages to the churches. Those were real churches of that day. And so we are now in the after those things. We're in the, and I always do this because that's how I mark it in my Bible, after these things. And we're over here. And then we're going to start looking in some detail. We've got to go fast because we've got chapters 4 to all the way through 10 to cover. But basically, if you want to bring out I've got a chart, but if you want to bring out your pictures, then look at those. Talk about the details in the chapters. Have those ready, your observation worksheets. If you listed it in list forms, kind of have them ready. Be able to just follow through in the text. Remember, we're not trying to bring in a lot of outside thinking, information. We're sticking to the text right now. We're staying in Revelation right now. Not that we can't ever talk about anything else in the Bible. Don't want to restrict us too much. All right, so first words in John 4 is after these things. And it says, I looked, and behold, what did he see? A door standing open in heaven, and the voice which I heard, like the sound. I'm sorry?
First voice he heard.
Very good. The first voice at that point that he heard, good point, that he heard like what? Sound of a trumpet speaking with me said. Now, if you were to remember, where else have we heard a voice that sounded like a trumpet? Chapter 1, and who was being talked about there? Who was being described? Jesus. Okay, so this is probable. The voice sounding like a trumpet speaking to me, saying what? Come up here. And what?
He came.
He came. And I will show you what must take place after these things. Here we go again. Yeah, I see those hands going. All right. And then it took a long time. Immediately. Thank you. Immediately, what happened? He was in the Spirit, and he was there, right? And what is he going to describe now?
Heaven.
He's going to describe heaven.
And the one sitting on the throne.
And one sitting on the throne. So again, this is important that you remember if we were going to write, and we can write some of this out in chapter 4. I guess almost 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We're going to try to write some of these things out. So this is after these things. Where is this happening? What is he seeing? Where is it?
Heaven.
In heaven. Always important. So if you want to put that across the top of your chapter, like so that you can identify, this is in heaven. Okay? After these things. And we've already established this is John. And in what state is he?
In spirit.
In the Spirit. Where else have we seen that phrase or that term? Do you remember? We're only in chapter 4, so you're limited.
1, 2, and 3.
We saw it, we said in one, exactly. And so it is a significant phrase. You probably want to, if you want to go back, mark that so that through, and now twice, we see it said that John was in the Spirit, okay? To give you an idea of how I do it, I mark it just with a blue cloud, but I've marked Spirit the way I usually mark Spirit, the Holy Spirit. It doesn't necessarily mean this is John is the Holy Spirit. I'm not saying that, but I'm marking Spirit like to reference that. I mark the Holy Spirit. Kay marks it with the other part of the triangle because she's usually, representing the triune God, and so God is usually marked with a triangle, and I think she uses purple colored in yellow with yellow. I use red because I started that way because I always saw the blood of Christ. So I started with red. But she usually does the full triangle. For Jesus, she usually does one side with a cross, representing still the triune God, but with him distinguished. And then usually she goes on the other side and marks it with a cloud for the Spirit, or look like a cloud. It's just some suggestions if you don't already have your way of marking. So I started my own, and I have a cross for Jesus with red, triangle for God, either God the Father, or when it just says God and I'm just saying triune God. But the Spirit, I started with something that looks like a dove, but it's actually a bird, and it would be very hard for you to know that's what it is, because I'm not an artist, but I did that because I thought Spirit, I thought dove. So anyway, I just cloud it with blue for this phrase in the Spirit. You can do it however you want, but do go back and mark it because it's important. So it says, immediately I was in the Spirit, and what does he see? Okay, so you can write that. I'm just going to draw my throne. Okay, and what does he see on the throne?
One sitting.
Right, he sees 1, 2. I'm going to put my triune God up there, triangle. If you want to do it in purple, whatever color, and mark it in yellow. When I draw, I'm going to show this. I've got a throne and I have a triangle on it. I don't try to draw God. I just have God sitting on the throne. Because I'm using a lot of times in my drawings, if I have a symbol for whatever I'm talking about, I put that symbol on my drawing as well. So that because that's kind of always the way I picture that word once I set up a symbol. And that you can use stick figures and things like that. All right, so we see God on the throne, or we see, let's see what it says. A throne was standing in heaven, and one sitting on the throne. What is your clue that this is, by your text, what is your clue that this is more than just somebody sitting on a throne? Capital O. That's not necessarily God writing it that way.
And I don't know if all translations would do that.
And I don't know that all translations would do that, but it does help me that somebody has thought at least. Okay, but let's find out what it's like. And he who was sitting was like jasper stone, sardius in appearance,
And
rainbow around the throne, like an emerald in appearance. So what color is an emerald?
Green.
Green. Okay. So if you were to draw that, you would, I don't know how you want to draw that, but like you could put a green circle around it, maybe several rings on that circle. I don't know how in the world you would draw out sardius and jasper.
It's red.
Okay. Oh, that's helpful.
Sardius is red.
Sardius is red. Okay. And sometimes you kind of have to go look some of this stuff up if you want to know that, because I didn't know that. I'm glad somebody did. But you can write those details down if you feel like you need to. Those, because I can't draw what sardius in appearance would look like, personally. Hopefully you can. And around the throne, what do we see? 24 thrones, right? So on my picture, which is bigger than what I have here, I have smaller versions of the big throne. And I actually drew 24 around there, but I'm just going to put ... And you can put 24 under it or whatever else. There's 24 thrones surrounding the throne, right? Okay, so we already have kind of a picture of what a circle, in essence, or square, something, some way that you've got those thrones, and you have
One in the middle.
throne in the middle, right? Okay, and so it's, and around the throne were 24 thrones, and upon the thrones I saw 24 elders,
Clothed in white garments,
clothed in white garments,
golden crowns.
with golden crowns on their heads, okay? So, however you want to write that, or if you can draw an old person, that's great.
I
And
just drew the little throne and put a golden
crown, okay. And
At
I
the top
did,
of the
I was
throne.
gonna say, on top of my throne in gold or in orange, I do have an orange here, I put a crown on top of the throne. Just however, and I used the same crown-like symbol, like the little crowns we used to get at Burger King when we were kids, little points, over each of those, and just whatever helps you remember. And okay, and they were clothed in white garments. And again, if you're drawing, it's hard to picture white garments. You might have to put white, whatever detail you need in there. And then it says, and from the throne, what happens?
Flashes of lightning.
Flashes of lightning
Peals of thunder.
and sounds and peals of thunder. Okay, so I've got lightning bolts coming out of the throne, and something like just a jagged line or something, and you can make a sound or say if it's peals of thunder. And there are what do you have to do? Seven lamps burning before the throne. So however you want to draw a lamp, I just drew it like this with something coming up, and I drew 7 of those. I kind of did a red over the part that looks like it was burning, so it looks like something's burning. It said there's 7 lamps of fire, and you can have those lamps of fire look like whatever you want the lamps of fire to look like. Mine kind of look like, I guess, an Aladdin lamp. Before the throne, which are 7 spirits of God. And that's what I gave you as an example earlier. I don't know how you would represent that, so I just wrote it. So I wrote it below, I'm 7 spirits of God. And what else is before the throne?
4 creatures.
First, before the 4, you've got a sea of glass. So I just put, like waves in front of the throne. Sea of glass. And now what else?
Center around throne.
And in the center and around the throne, full of eyes in front and behind. Okay, now it's giving you a detail. In the center around the throne. Okay, so we've got, we've already established what's in the center. God's throne, right? And so it's the center of what? If the throne's in the center, because these are around the throne. No, that's the sea of glass is before the throne. So it's saying in the center, around the throne, are these 4 living creatures. Right? Is that okay? But they're within the circle of the 24 thrones. Is that where you see them? Like between the 24 elders' thrones and God's throne, you now have within that circle these 4 living creatures. That's the way I read it. Is that the way you're reading it? Okay. Okay, let's see. In the center of the sea of glass, if that's the way you might read it, and around the throne. Well, it's saying the sea of glass is before the throne, not around the throne. So I'm just telling you the way I read it. So you have to depict it somehow and figure that out. So I just have these 4 creatures around, but I guess I was picking up on more of in between the 24 elders' thrones and the center throne. And that's just, I'm not going to die on that hill.
Well, I didn't leave enough room to draw inside, so mine's outside.
Okay, Sandy said hers are outside because she didn't know enough room. That's an example of when you first get started and you go, oh shoot, I got information later. And I might have probably had to originally go back and redraw that because I see it this way now.
Yeah.
I see it this way.
When I think of the word bodyguards, that's what I see.
But 4 bodyguards. It said, okay.
Boy, those are cool.
And somehow depicting they're full of eyes in front and behind. And again, that might be something that you put a bunch of eyes on them or you write it out. Okay. Okay, now it starts describing those four creatures, correct? And notice, this is something to notice. It says the first creature, so they're being distinguished. Okay, the first creature was like a lion. Okay, now remember it's saying was like a lion. It does not say
It is.
was a lion.
Right.
It says was like a lion. And the second creature, a calf. Third creature,
Face like a man.
face like that of a man. Fourth creature
Fly like a
was
lion.
like a flying eagle. All of these are like, not are. They are like, okay? So you've got the four creatures, and you can mark those as in wherever you put them would be interesting. It's just that John is identifying them as the first one's this, second one's this, third one's this, fourth one's this. Okay?
Didn't we see something similar to that, this in Ezekiel?
Yes, yes, and that will come at some point in time. But yeah, it's you're remembering. If you've ever read it before or we studied it before in Ezekiel, we saw something like this, and we saw it. We studied it when we studied Daniel as well,
Yes.
because we went to both places. All right, but right now we see these four living creatures, and they're called creatures. They're not called. I mean, because one of them looks sort of like a man. So we wouldn't necessarily call that a creature usually. We would say a person, but in this case, these are four living creatures. And then it says the four living creatures, each one of them had six wings and are full of eyes around and within. Not just in front and back like we saw before, but they're full of eyes all around and within. And day and night, what do they do?
Holy, holy.
They say, holy, 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 and that's possibly holy the Father, holy the Son, holy the Holy Spirit, but regardless, it's holy, 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 is the Lord God, the Almighty, who was and who is to come. So again, this is where I just have like a word bubble off to the side and kind of point back to the living creatures. That's where it's coming from. And this is worship, so I represented it as with my worship symbol. But they're saying holy, and they're not ceasing to say this. Okay, it's over and over. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God, the Almighty, who was and who is to come. And when the living creatures give glory and honor, so we are told this is what this is: glory and honor and thanks to Him who sits on the throne. Okay, so now we absolutely know who is sitting on the throne, right? If we debated it before, because it just said one who sits on the throne, now it's saying it's the Lord God, the Almighty, who was, who is, and who is to come. And it says that's Him who sits on the throne, and it says, to Him who lives forever and ever. All of that you could be writing out on the side as words they're saying. However much information you want to put on there. And the 24 elders, what do? Fall down and worship Him who sits on the throne. They're falling down from their thrones. They're falling down. So I have some of those 24 elders in a bowing down position in stick figure form in front of their thrones towards the throne in the center, because that's who they're bowing down to. And it says they fall down before Him who sits on the throne and will worship Him who lives forever and ever. And what else do they do? Cast their crowns, right? Before the throne, saying, worthy are that you, O Lord, our Lord and our God, to receive glory and honor and power. For you did create all things, and because of you will they exist. Because of your will, they existed and were created. More worship. Worship. So you've got, the whole time this is being said, you've got to hear in your head, the living creatures are never stopping to say, holy, holy, holy. So overall, how would you say what's going on there? What's he hearing?
Worship.
Worship. Worship, worship. If somebody asks you what's going on in heaven or will go on or what are we going to see when we get there, we're going to worship, and we're going to see worship, right? What should we be like now?
Worshiping.
Worshiping, right.
In
true worship,
preparation.
right. It doesn't say they're singing. Doesn't say there's music. So if you are one of those that has a tendency, and we hear this phrase all the time, we all fall prey of thinking that the music we sang earlier is the worship time. And music's a great way to worship. But the first use of the word worship in the Bible never mentions music or instruments or singing or anything. Here we hear words, but we don't necessarily, and we're told in Revelation they're singing at times. This is not one of those times. It just says they're saying this over and over. It's worship. It's identifying, not just for our sakes, who is sitting on the throne, but it's identifying who he is. What they're saying about him is true, and they're recognizing that. It's a way that we can also operate. When you're praying, pray to the God that created everything. Pray to the God that everything exists because of him. Pray to this holy, 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 the Almighty God. I mean, right here, you've got some great words that you can use. Okay, so from that perspective that you have, did you come across anything else? I mean, we've already talked about throne in the middle of what?
Rainbow.
In heaven. There's a rainbow surrounding it. And then we have structure, as in a sense. We've got things, more furniture. And what pattern might that furniture be around the throne?
Like that was in the temple.
That's what it would probably be. We don't know if those thrones are set up in a square, a rectangle, a circle, but it's surrounding the throne. We've already seen a rainbow surrounding the throne. Now we've got this 24 thrones surrounding the throne. It seems to kind of maybe think of a circle. And then we see from within that circle some things. That outer circle, we see the sea of glass, we see the lamps in front of the throne, and we are introduced to the 4 living creatures that are also surrounding the throne. But the center of focus is the throne. It's the first thing that John describes, and then he describes the other things. So he comes from afar, comes in the spirit, through, some doors opened. I don't know if he came through the door, but it was open. And he comes up there. He is seeing all of this. He's describing all of this. The center of focus is the throne. But then he starts describing things from the outside in. Because he's coming. It's like he's coming from a distance and he sees it. But if you were, from what I understand, Jerusalem is on a hill, one of the highest, if not the highest places in Israel. From all distances, you would see it. You would see it from a distance. They have the Psalms of Ascent, meaning as they came to the city, they walked up a hill. That's the reason they're called the Psalms of Ascent. You'll see them at the end of the Psalms, meaning they're ascending. Ascent, meaning they're ascending. So if you were walking towards Jerusalem, the temple, you would see that city sitting up on a hill, and you would probably see its crowning jewel there back in Jesus' day or before would be what? The temple sitting. You could see that from a great distance, probably. And especially since there was so much gold involved, if the sun hit it, you would see it, right, from a distance. In a similar way, but not exact, you've got John seeing things. First, he's going to see the most important thing, which is the center of the throne. And then it's like his eyes began to go, oh, there's more going on here. And he sees the other.
Well, it makes me think that the throne in the center of the throne is just so huge.
Yes.
That it dwarfs everything else.
Right.
Until you get right up to it.
Right. And instead of it being on scale possibly with the others, you see it first. And then, again, you kind of notice. Yes?
Well, I thought so too, but then, the Egyptians and the people over there, they always put the important people and they drew it huge. And
Out
then,
of scale? Yeah.
And then the regular people were real tiny.
Right. And so it could be out of scale in that sense, or it could be that, again, his focus was going to be on the throne, ours should be, and then the details of other things. Plus, he's told to see this stuff and write it down. So we wouldn't see that other stuff if
Well,
all
if
he
there
ever
was
saw.
bolts of lightning and flashes of thunder, that
That
would
kind
pretty much draw your attention
would.
right away.
Yes. And it's interesting that he didn't see those before he saw the sardius and experience and the emerald ring bow. Yeah. So yeah, that would get your attention, the flashes of lightning and sounds and peals of thunder and the lamps that are in front of it. But he gives us these details. We're trying to lay them out. Again, some of these are not hills we're going to die on. It's just that they're there. But let's give an alternative. If we were told there were 24 thrones and they were in rows, but that's not what we're told. You know, they're not at like a congregation or pews, you know, lined up, or even your tables as you move away from this one backwards, you're in kind of stacking. These 24 elders, it said, their thrones were surrounding the throne. So just details, interesting details. So that's chapter 4. As we move on to chapter 5, what are we seeing here? And where are we?
We are still in heaven.
We're still in heaven, so we're going to put heaven up here. We're in heaven. Or the action of what's being described is a better way of putting that.
We see the book and the lamb.
Okay, so in the right hand of him who sat on the throne, we've got our throne again. And we have, yes, we have he who sits on the throne. And in his, if this is his perspective, this would be his right hand, right? So from this triangle, I draw, poorly, a hand. And in that right hand, you can put a book, or you can put a scroll, or however you want to draw it. I'm going to kind of draw it as a scroll because it's a little bit smaller and easier to draw. In his right hand is a book. In the right hand of him who sat on the throne. And it's saying it's written on the inside and the back, so you could put writing on it. Somehow John sees it both. And then what else? Sealed with 7 seals. Okay, I do a seal, it looks like a bow that you're tying, and you could put 7 of those on there. However you drew a seal, however you want to represent, or if you just want to write the information out to the side. It was sealed up with 7 seals. And then what?
Strong angel.
So we have a strong angel,
And he says, who's worthy to open the book?
and he asks the question, who is worthy to open the book and break its seals? And as I've told you before, when I represent an angel, I just write the word angel, and then I give him a great set of wings, and then I put a bubble of words above him, not up in my 5, but in my picture, just put a bubble of words starting with who is worthy. Because he's saying, who is worthy to what? Open the book and to break its seals. If you hadn't thought about that before, if John hadn't thought about that before, the angel brings it up. And now we know. And then what do we find?
No one in heaven, no one in heaven or on earth is worthy.
No one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the book and to look into it. So apparently these seals are keeping it shut. And then what happens?
One of the elders says, stop weeping.
Well, first we see that in verse 4 that John was weeping. Okay, so in both of these chapters, as I drew, a lot of times I would just have John as a stick figure. I might put an arrow from his eye showing that he's looking at this. He's not on a throne or anything like that. So here I've also got John, in a stick figure, and I literally have blue tears coming down. And maybe have him looking, because he's, it indicates that he's looking or he's seeing these things. And it says, he weeps greatly because no one was found worthy to open the book or look into it. And now we've got, who's saying what?
One of the elders told him to stop crying.
One of the elders. So I don't have as much detail in this drawing, but I have like one throne and then ... and then I have like a voice coming from one of the thrones saying, stop weeping. Why? Because the lion who's from the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has overcome so as to open the book and its 7 seals. Okay, so as much of that detail as you want to put on there, but now there's a description. We've got the lion that's from the tribe of Judah and the root of David. That certainly should cause us, and John especially, to know who this is. Gives us a description. But it just says that, and then John said, what? Okay, so it says, I saw between the throne, and then in kind of parentheses it says, with the four living creatures, and the elders. So where are the elders? Around on their thrones, or they have been on their faces, and maybe on their thrones again. The elders, so again you've got that circle of the thrones, you've got the throne in the middle, you've got the living creatures, and so in all of that, as he's saying, between those, you've got a lamb. And how is he described? Standing as if slain. And that's a very, very, very strange description. Because normally we would say, on the ground as if he's dead, but it says standing as if slain. So, but we do know the lamb is standing. So if you want to draw a cute little sheep, or lamb there, and it's got to be in that circle, and it kind of is indicating even between maybe the creatures and the throne, but within that, but all of those, it's saying he's not out here outside the circle walking in from some far off place. He's in there, and it says, I saw a lamb standing as if slain. How's he described? Seven horns and 7 eyes, which are
Seven spirits of God.
okay. Where have we heard 7 spirits of God before? In chapter 4. And they were described there as the 7 lamps that are before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. So now it's saying the 7 eyes that are on the lamb are the 7 spirits of God. So we keep seeing the 7 spirits of God. And what is it saying about these 7 spirits of God? Send out over all the earth. Okay, so if it's a lamp burning and it's an eye and it's sent out over all of the earth, you might begin to think of why is it saying the 7 spirits of God are that in that way? I mean, if you have a lamp and you've got eyes, what does that tell you?
You can see.
You can see, right? And even if it were dark, you have a light source, right? That's possibly what it's talking about. Sent out into all the earth. Then it says, and he, so who's the he? The lamb, right? He's the lamb. And he came and he took it out of the right hand of him who sat on the throne. Now, in order for me to do this, I've got almost like those cartoon frames. So I've got maybe just the John weeping around the throne and the angel, and the next one I've got the throne and the lamb, and the hand no longer has the book because the lamb has the book. Okay, and I'm just I've got LC1, LC2, LC3, and 24 elders, and I've got eyes on this little puppy sheep I've drawn. Any way that you can that helps you see it. It says, he came and he took it out of the right hand of him who sat on the throne. But then it says next, and when he had taken it, what does it say?
The 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before him.
Okay.
Each holding a harp and golden bowls.
And golden bowls of incense. So they've got a harp and golden bowls of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. The bowls of incense are the prayers of the saints. So they're holding those. And how close to the throne are they? Pretty close. And they've also got harps. Notice what in our culture do we usually associate with heaven and a harp? Angels or people who die. Isn't that sometimes how it's represented? Right? I'm going to, because in some, and this is not a true, I'm saying in our culture, even in our church culture, we will sometimes seem to act like if I die and I'm a Christian and I go to heaven, what do I become?
No, you're not.
I'm not going to, no, I'm not going to, but that's how a lot of times, that gets into our thinking sometimes and we don't even know where it came from because it comes from movies and teachings sometimes even but not necessarily correct teachings. But here, who has the harp? What group of people have the harp? Or group of things? What? The 24 elders and the 4 living creatures have harps and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. And then what do?
They sing a new song.
Here we go. We're singing a song now. They've been constantly saying things in the previous chapter, and now they're singing a song. And it says they sang a new song, which is, worthy are you or thou to take the book, to break its seals, for you were slain and purchased for God with your blood from every tribe and every tongue and every people and every nation. Okay, now they're doing what? Not just singing a song, but what is this? They're worshiping. Who are they worshiping here? Jesus, ultimately, but the Lamb specifically is being described. What does that indicate to you about this Lamb? He's God. And he's worthy of worship. They're not being rebuked for worshiping, because if he wasn't worthy of being worshiped, they would be told to stop. But they're also in the presence of the one who sits on the throne. They recognize and we've already seen worship of him. Now we're seeing worship of the Lamb. It's a great and powerful place to take somebody if they don't believe Jesus is God, by the way. Right? Okay. And we see this, worthy are you to take the book. He's already taken it. And he's taken it out of him who sits on the throne, who is almighty. Remember that. If he was almighty and something was in his right hand, could it be taken if he didn't want it and shouldn't be taken? No. So he is worthy to take the book. He was able to take it, and he's worthy to break its seals. And we'd already seen that no one was found worthy. So this is the only one that is worthy. So basically searched everywhere, and there's no one found worthy. He's the only one worthy. To open the book and break its seals, to take the book, and break its seals, for why? What is the basis of him being worthy? It says it.
He was slain.
He was slain, right. And his blood purchased for God men from every tribe and every tongue and every people and every nation. This is a lamb standing as if slain. This is a lamb who is from the tribe of, he's a lion. He's from the tribe of Judah, the root of David. He's overcome so as to open the book and its 7 seals. There's a lot of description that you could put in the margin. You could put on in your margin of your observation worksheets or in your Bible, or you could put also on your drawing, because there's not a lot of ways to represent all of that. But it's important. They're focusing on the Lamb. And then it says in verse 10, and you made them to be what? Kingdom and priests to our God, and they'll reign upon the earth. Okay? In chapter 1, we saw that it was said that we were made a kingdom of priests also. So this is referring back to that as well. And so the ones that were purchased by the blood of the Lamb and given to God, that's how they were purchased and given to God. They were purchased by his blood, and they were from where? Every person group, people group. You like that part. I like that part too.
Forever.
Yes.
That happened way back then.
Yes.
And it still means us.
It still means us. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And also a reminder to us that we don't get to exclude a people group.
That's right.
We don't choose who these people groups are, as I'm calling them people groups, rather than saying that whole phrase. Okay. And then it says, John said, I looked and I heard what? Voice of many angels around the throne, and living creatures, and the elders, and the number of them. So it's referring back to these angels. The number of them, because we know the 24 elders and 4 living creature numbers. So it's referring back to that. But the number of them was myriads and myriads and thousands and thousands. That's pretty amazing. So you could just have like a lot of wings up there and around.
It's going to be noisy.
Yeah, that's one of the things we should hear.
Yeah.
Is myriads and myriads. Have you ever been in a place where like thousands were singing at the same time or shouting? Like if you've been to a ball game at UT, 100,000 people shouting at the same time is loud.
But even
And-
angels' wings going back and forth.
And the angels' wings could be going back and forth and flapping and making noise as well. But we also have the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders are participating in this. And they're saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. So not just is he worthy to open the book, he's worthy of all of that as well. And then it says, every created thing which is in heaven and on the earth and under the earth and on the sea and all things in them, I heard saying. What? To him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be blessing and honor and glory and dominion forever and ever. And the 4 living creatures kept saying, Amen. Amen. And the elders fell down and worshiped. Okay. Again, it gives you a glimpse of what heaven's going to be like if you can begin to imagine it. And please don't use my pictures of it. But if you can begin to imagine it and what we will participate in.
It's not going to be a hill that I die on, but what does under the earth?
That's an interesting phrase, isn't it?
Yes.
And under the earth. Not sure that I can answer that right now, but maybe as we do more depth study or
Doesn't it
later.
mean down in the depths of the earth?
You mean like
Because
under
there
the
are-
surface of the ground or?
Because there are creatures down there.
Okay,
Well,
creatures.
Like in the center of the earth?
Well, worms.
in the center.
You know, the worms are under the ground, I guess, is one thing.
Oh,
Moles.
okay, under the earth, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good point. But it also maybe could indicate some other things, but it's a good question. I mean, you're picking up on what's under the earth.
Burrow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, and then, so we see overall a picture of praise and worship and recognizing, not just worship of the one who sits on the throne, but recognizing the worship for the Lamb. The Lamb that's the Lion, the Lamb that's of the root of David, the Lamb that's from the tribe of Judah, the Lamb who died and purchased from earth, from all those people groups, for God, people from every nation, tribe, and tongue, and something else. And this is big. And we see the action of him taking the book. He has the book now because he's worthy, and that's being recognized. Okay, moving into chapter 6. What do we see?
Lamb.
We're still in heaven.
Still in heaven. Good. Okay. And Katie, what were you saying?
Lamb broke the 7 seals.
Lamb. That's very important. The lamb, if you want to draw your little sheep, few legs. See how good I am? With my ears, got a finger on him. The lamb with the book, put the book in his hand, and he
Or one of the 4 living
broke
creatures.
one of the 7 seals. And then you hear a voice of one of the living creatures
Say come.
saying, "Come." We've seen the word "come" before, right? That was when John was told to come up here, right? And he says, "Come." And therefore, John looked. So again, I would have John kind of standing off, looking at all this. And you'd have one of the 4 living creatures, and I just have LC a lot of times, saying, "Come." And I looked, and what happens?
Oh, white horse.
A white horse, right? A white horse, and what else is described?
His crown was given, a bow and a crown was given.
And there's he who sat on it. So you don't just have a horse. He sees a horse. You can draw a horse. Better than me. With a tail and a mane. But you've got somebody sitting on the horse. Okay? And to him, and you might have to write white, to him was given what? A crown and a bow. Thank you. He had a bow. Okay, so he has a bow, and he's given a crown. I might use color on some of this.
And he went out to call.
He went out conquering and to conquer, and again, I can't do anything but write that. He went out conquering and to conquer. So if he has a bow, and that sounds like it's like a bow and arrow type bow, but a bow, and he has a crown. He's sitting on a white horse, and he goes out conquering and to conquer. What are some things that indicates?
He has power.
His power, because he can conquer, right?
But it doesn't.
But he doesn't have an arrow.
He doesn't have any arrows.
Right.
He just has a bow.
That's how you go.
So he has a weapon, except for, well, he has the
Part of the
instrument.
weapon.
Yeah, yeah, it's like an unloaded gun. You could throw it at somebody, that's about all you could do. But he has a bow, and a crown was given to him, which indicates some sort of authority, and then he goes out conquering and to conquer. Okay, so while John is seeing this in heaven, where is the action taking place?
On earth.
On earth. So you have heaven and earth here. Because the Lamb is in heaven breaking the seal. As he broke the seal, this is what happened, comes out. Okay, the white horse, somebody is sitting on it and all of that. Okay, then what happens? Second seal is broken, and then what do you hear?
Come.
Second living creature says, come. Doesn't say first living creature the first time, but it says one of the living creatures. Now it's saying the second living creature. If you wanted to identify that second living creature, he identified it before as this is the one that's like a calf. Okay, second living creature saying, come. And it's almost like when he says come, what happens? You see a horse. So it's like he says it and the horse comes out. It's almost like you see that. Okay, so this is number one, first seal. And then you see another
Red
horse,
Red horse.
and it's red. I'm not going to continue to draw bad horses. But
He's got a sword.
he has and he who sat on it, so we have somebody sitting on it. He was granted what?
To
Take peace from the earth, that men should slay one another, and a great sword was given him. So you've got one that's sitting on a red horse with a sword was given to him. Doesn't say crown. It says, but it does say sword. And it was granted for him to take peace from the earth. But who's doing the fighting? Men, right. Men are going to, I say fighting, but it does say men are going to slay one another. So there's stuff there, and where is that happening? On earth again. So you've got this being shown in heaven with the seal being broken, but the action's taking place on earth. Okay, second horse is red. When he broke the third seal, you heard the third living creature saying, "Come and look, and behold, a black horse." And there's one sitting on it, and he who sat on it was given what? Or he had a pair of scales in his hand. And John said, I heard as it was a voice in the center of the four living creatures saying,
How much wheat's going to cost?
how much wheat's going to cost? A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine. Okay, so again, going back to what we remember in our pictures, we've got the throne in the center, we have 24 elders on thrones, we have 4 living creatures within that, but we also had another character, I'll say, within that, not just the one who sat on the throne, and that was the Lamb. But it's saying here that there is a voice coming from that. Maybe this is Jesus himself saying, a quart of wheat for a denarius. What does that sound like? He's got scales in his hand, and this voice is saying this, explaining it a little bit. Weighing, and there's the idea of weighing and measuring. If you have, ours say quart, but the literal could be a dry measure almost equal to a quart. It's a choenix is the original. So there would be some word in Hebrew or Greek that we're translating over to be about this amount. So if you bought a quart of wheat for a denarius, and a denarius was the equivalent of 1 day's wage.
You're 300.
Right. If I came out here with a quart jar, which is about the size of Carolyn's glass there, and once it was weighed out, cost you an entire day's wage. Or 3 quarts of barley for the same amount. Or it says, do not harm the oil and the wine. So right now they're not going to be touched. So wheat and barley, what would we call wheat and barley? They're grains. And they're what?
Just basic food.
Basic food, very basic. If you take like what the Bible talks about all the time, a basic food is bread. And that was what they would make bread from. It's saying wheat and barley, but they take it home, they grind it, and make it into bread. And this would be basic food. And and therefore one quart would be an entire day's wage. Does that indicate anything?
Inflation.
Inflation, yeah, a big price, right? So it might indicate, it doesn't indicate war here. It doesn't sound like there's any fighting going on, but this is
Economic collapse.
got problems. Economic collapse, famine, or lack of resources, or inflation, a very high, because usually when there is a famine and the demand is high and the supply is small, then whatever you do pay for at a high rate.
Now, this is probably going ahead of schedule,
Okay.
but is there any way in Revelations, and I know you probably can't tell us this, but do we know like this time frame, like, when you have horse number 1 and this is what happens, and horse number 2, does it say somewhere in Revelations, like it's
How
a
long?
long span of time between each horse, or?
Not, I don't think so,
Okay.
and certainly not now. We don't have an indication in these 3 that we've seen so far of time. There's no, but do you think these are happening one after the other? And you don't have to answer it, I'm just asking you to think. Are these one after another, or are these happening at the same time? That's something to be thinking about.
But that's when the seals are broken. Are they all broken at the same time?
Right, did he break 3 seals at the same time, or did he break 1 seal at a time?
And
you
then
kind
you
of
go through this period of
Right.
tribulation, and maybe the next one happens.
Mhm. So the first one, it sounds like, is there's conquering going on, but maybe no shots are fired, no arrows are thrown. You have to think about
I always thought with the white horse, I always kind of thought that was the bad guy coming out to town, an Antichrist.
Okay,
That's how
well,
I look at it.
we don't know that from here, so.
No, but I'm saying that's
Yeah, I
what I'm
understand.
thinking.
I understand,
But
but,
the white horses being good.
Well, the white horse is the
Or the
Antichrist, or the bad
oh,
guy
the
coming
bad
into
guy.
battle.
many people have looked at these and tried to figure all that out.
Yeah.
So let's just, the best thing to do is stick with what we know. There is one who's sitting on, it looks like a person, I guess, sitting on the horse. It's resulting of Jesus breaking the seal, the Lamb breaking the seal. It comes out, he is given certain things, and he goes out conquering and to conquer. But it doesn't look like, even though he has a bow, he doesn't have any arrows. So maybe this is a takeover of some sort without any shots fired. If you know anything about history, and I really don't, I have to be told, when Hitler was beginning, he created situations that he solved, but he made them happen behind the scenes. But he walked into Austria and took over Austria without anybody being killed, no shots fired. So that would be that kind of thing, possibly. Is that what's happening now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Just kind of sway us with
China.
to talk. And
Yeah. The second
Words.
one, though, is it has
Yeah.
to do with taking peace from the earth and men slaying each other. So if you're conquered, or if you look like a conquered people, then maybe the next thing is you look weak and people start,
overrunning.
right, attacking each other. However that happens. And the third looks like wheat and barley are being sold at a very high price. And possibly famine, possibly inflation, possibly doling out or whatever. But it says don't harm the oil and the wine, so they don't seem to be, so at least you can get drunk. Same thing with, sorry.
Grease yourself up.
Probably not do it that way.
Yeah, you can, if your car can burn oil, you can take a trip. Okay, and then it says he broke the 4th seal, and we've got the same pattern. We have the 4th living creature saying, come, and what happens? An ashen horse, I'm assuming that's a gray, an ashen horse, and there's he who sat on it. What does it say? His name is Death, and Hades was following with him, and
So is Hades another
Authority
horse?
would give us
is Hades another horse? Don't know. I just have Hades written following him. Whatever that looks like, and then, I'm sorry.
of the earth killed.
Yes, authority was given to him over 1/4 of the earth to kill with sword, famine, and pestilence by the wild beasts of the earth. Okay, pestilence. I always think of pest like a bug, or whatever, but pestilence can be disease and pestilence can be creatures killing, you know, it coming about in another way. Famine, pestilence, and wild beasts, but it says he was given to kill with a sword also. But how many? A fourth of the earth. This is the first time. Now, obviously, there's been slaying each other in the second one, and there's, you know, some sort of famine or something going on in the third one. And the fourth one, now you've got a fourth of the earth being killed with those things: sword, famine, pestilence, and wild beasts. Okay, so when you hear, sometimes you've heard the four horsemen of the apocalypse. This is where that comes from, wouldn't you think? Okay, these are horsemen, these are horses, these are horsemen, there's four of them. And the word apocalypse, she told us last week, is the word revelation, right? If you take it from the Greek, it's apocalypto or something like that. And so that's where this word comes from. But a lot of times people start using apocalypse, you know, is disaster, end of the world scenarios or whatever. So these are not called the four horsemen of the apocalypse here, but there are four horsemen, and they are in Revelation, so they can be the four horsemen of the Revelation, okay? But not always the way it's described. And then you have the fifth seal broken, right? And what do you see?
The souls of those who've been slain because of the word of God.
Right. So John saw underneath the altar, what altar? Where's that altar? Altars in heaven. The souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and because of the testimony which they maintained. And they cried with a loud voice and said, "How long, O Lord, holy and true," recognizing who he was, will you refrain from judging and avenging our blood on those who dwell on the earth? So you've got this group under the altar crying out. Now, what does that indicate to you? If they're in heaven under the altar, they're able to, and they're crying out to the one who's sitting on the throne, and they're asking him this question. What does that indicate to you about their awareness of what's going on earth?
They seem to know.
They can see it, and they're crying out, and they're aware of, on some level, of what's going on. Okay. Again, it gives you a glimpse of what is possible about the state of people when they go to heaven. Okay? Just a glimpse, right? And what was given to them? White robe. And what else?
To rest for a while.
Rest for a little while longer.
Because the number, sure.
Right. And so their number is not completed, because it said until the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who were to be killed, even as they had been, should be completed. So this group, whoever they are, their numbers are not yet completed. There is also an idea of understanding time in
Would
heaven.
they be the martyrs?
Well, we would call them martyrs, because again, Kay has explained the word martyr
Yeah.
is one who is sacrificing for the testimony,
Right.
not always killed, but would be willing to die, and a lot of them are. But we have kind of taken up that word to mean someone who dies for their faith. Yes, they are dead because of their testimony and that they had maintained. And John is seeing the beginning of their number under the altar, but there's more, they're told, are coming. Okay? And then it says they were given a white robe. It also says they broke the sixth seal. So there wasn't action going on at the fifth seal, right? There wasn't a horse coming out and stuff happening. All of the fifth seal is in heaven, other than the idea that there's more going to happen on earth. Okay? But we're hearing about a lot of death, right? You're seeing that so far? Okay. And then it says, and the sixth seal was broken, and what? Great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth, made of hair, and the whole moon became
Blood.
like blood. Okay? So we're seeing things in the sky. We're seeing the sun as black as wax, sackcloth. Thank you. And the moon looks like blood. All right? We understand now, maybe more than they did then, the relationship between the moon and the sun. Yes, in the solar system as we can see it from Earth and what we can see. So again, from the perspective that John has, but also from the perspective of Earth, they would have seen the sun black and the moon like blood, and it says like blood, that means it's red, but it's not blood. It's like blood, and we understand that if there's an eclipse or if there's something that goes on with the sun, it affects the moon, right? So this
Makes
is
you kind of wonder, how can you see anything if the sun is black? It's like,
right. Well, it'd be nighttime for
yeah,
one
but I
thing.
mean, you go outside at night, it's like you can't
Yes.
see.
Yes. And interesting, but we're not going to go into it today, but there are all these blood moons that we're seeing right now.
Yes.
And if you listen to people who know, not me, what causes a blood moon, there are different, as they call them blood moons, there are different effects of the sun that are causing that. So it's that kind of idea here. And then it also says, what else? Stars fell to the earth. So we have, again, things happening way out there that are impacting the earth. So you have both the heaven and the earth issue going on here. And it says, the stars of the sky fell to the earth as a fig tree cast its unripe figs when shaken by a great wind. Okay, anybody that knows anything about fruit trees, or in this case, a fig tree, which I guess is a fruit, right? A fig tree, if it's unripe fruit,
It stays on the tree.
it stays on the tree. A lot of times the way you know an apple or a peach is ready is basically you barely touch it and it falls from but if you go out there when they're hard and green and you
gotta twist it.
you might even have to clip it. Yeah, you have to really tug and twist. So an unripe fig cast from a tree that's shaken by a great wind, that's going to be what? It's going to be violent. It's going to be a big wind. I mean, like a tornado kind of wind, I guess, or hurricane force winds. But they fell to the earth. So instead of just like falling to the earth, it gives you the idea of being thrown to the earth in a sense. Okay? The sky was split apart like a scroll when it's rolled up. Did your mind go to a song? Clouds will be rolled back like a scroll. The earth shall resound, and the Lord shall. Yeah, okay, so even so, it is well with my soul. Every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Wow. It had talked about a great earthquake. It talks about these stars falling to the earth. If they fell to the earth as if shaken by a great wind from an unripe fig from a tree, this is big. And then the sky split apart, rolled up. Every mountain and island were moving out of their places. I remember when I first studied this, I couldn't even grasp that. But you know the tsunami that hit Japan, right? Was it Japan that it hit a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Your nephew was there, wasn't he? Right. Have y'all heard since then that the island was moved? Yeah, that tsunami hit so hard that the entire island of Japan, which is essentially a big old island, was moved. I mean, fractions of it, it was moved. That's huge, yeah. So you can imagine this. We can't imagine this, but just that idea. So the permanence, and I've mentioned this before, the permanence of what I'm standing on that feels real nice and firm, or that chair you're sitting in that you're counting on, is not very permanent. We're basically just a big floating something or other on top of magma and all this other stuff that can be moved. Okay, and then it says, the kings of the earth and the great men, the commanders of the rich and strong, and every slave and every free man, hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains. And they said to the mountains and to the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the presence of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who is able to stand? I mean, everything's shaken out from under them. And they go cowering into caves thinking that's going to give them some protection. Yeah, I'd be kind of afraid of going inside there, but you know, in terror you would run. But what are they recognizing here?
God.
Yeah, they're recognizing that he who sits on the throne, God, and the wrath of the Lamb, they're kind of crediting them to some extent, but they're saying hide us from the presence. It's a kind of a unfortunate but human reaction. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who is able to stand? great day of their wrath has come is a time phrase. Make sure you mark it. Okay? Interesting. So that's how many seals broken? Okay. So we have 6 seals in chapter 6, right? And then in chapter 7, gotta move. What do we see in chapter 7? 144,000. And where we have 4 angels standing in the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth, so that no wind should blow on the earth or on the sea or any tree, which would be extremely strange. You would feel that. If you've ever been in a windless day, that's very strange. And what?
Just stillness.
Stillness. Yeah, kind of get your attention.
Calm before the storm.
Yes, yes. And then it says, I saw an angel ascending from the rising of the sun, having what? The seal of the living God. So this is, like a stamp or something. He's got it. And it says, and what? He cried out with a loud voice to those other 4 angels. And what was granted to those 4 angels? To harm the earth and the sea. More harm's coming. And he says, don't harm the earth or the sea or the trees until what? We have sealed the bondservants of our God on their foreheads. Now, it says next who those are. Okay? 144,000. How are they described? Right, the tribes, right. So you've got 144,000, and there are 12,000 from each tribe. And those tribes are named, and they are also called bondservants of God. And they're to be sealed with the seal of God by the angel who has the seal. And those 4 angels are being stopped for now because they have been granted to harm the earth and the sea, but he's telling them not to do it yet. So those 144,000 have to be sealed so that harming isn't happening until they're sealed.
And they're on earth.
Okay, they're on earth because that's where the harm's coming, on the earth. Because so they're on earth. So we have earth mentioned where the action's happening. And really you've got like standing apart from earth, but it still looks like most of this is happening on earth. Most of the focus is happening on earth. And then it says, of course, they're sealed, or they're being told they're going to be sealed. And then after these things, John looked, and what? You've got a great multitude. So you've also got a great multitude. And we're told they can't be numbered, or nobody, at least, I'm sure God knows the number, which no one could count. So this is not the 144,000. That's one easy way to know. It's not the same group. I'm sorry?
Everybody else.
It's not everybody else, but it's a great multitude, and they're from every tribe, people, and tongue, and every nation, okay? But they're a large number, okay?
This is in heaven?
It says, where are they?
Before the throne.
Before the throne, before the Lamb, and they're clothed in white robes, and palm branches are in their hands. So this is happening on earth, and the next part is we're seeing them in heaven. A great multitude is named. There's a lot of description about them, about they're clothed, they're saying with a loud voice, salvation to our God, so it's their God and the Lamb. All the angels are standing around the throne and around the elders and 4 living creatures, and they fell on their faces before the throne and worshiped God. And all this stuff is said, which is awesome. Very great worship going on here. And then an angel said to John, is it angel? An elder, sorry. One of the elders, right, said to John, my Lord, asked him, who are they? And John said, you know. And he said, these are the ones who come out of the great tribulation. So the great multitude comes out of the great tribulation. And they have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. These are believers. Okay? And it says, for this reason, they were before the throne of God, and they serve him day and night in his temple, and he who sits on the throne shall spread his tabernacle over them, so it's protection. And they shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun beat down on them, nor any heat. So apparently all that has happened before. And it says, for the Lamb in the center of the throne shall be their shepherd, and shall guide them to the springs of the water of life, and God shall wipe away every tear from their eyes. So they're coming out of the Great Tribulation. They're no longer dealing with the sun and the heat and thirsting or any of those things anymore. This is just kind of a big picture idea of who this group of people are. And they're definitely before the throne. They're definitely have washed their robes in the blood of Jesus and all of that. So that's the great multitude in chapter 7. In chapter 8, what do we see?
The Lamb broke 7 seals.
So we have the 7th seal broken in chapter 8, and the Lamb broke it, so we have that reminder. And then it says there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. That would be after all that noise. Remember we were talking about all that noise before? All those voices raised, all that singing, all that words, multitudes of angels you can't even count, myriads and myriads and thousands. And the multitude, this great multitude talking, there's a lot of noise, and suddenly there's silence. There'd be a deafening silence. And then, as a result of the 7th seal being broken, silence in heaven, what do you see?
About half an hour.
About half an hour of silence, and what do we see?
7 angels.
Right. So we have
7 prophets.
7 angels. Yeah, 7 of them. And they're given 7 trumpets, which I usually do a golden trumpet or an orange trumpet. They're given 7 trumpets. And they stand before God. And another angel came and stood at the altar. He had a golden censer. So there's an altar there somewhere that we haven't had described yet, except for the souls were under the altar, under an altar. It says, holding a golden censer, and much incense was given to him that he might add it to the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which is before the throne. So he takes incense, puts it in a censer, and takes it before a golden altar that's before the throne. And it says, and the smoke of the incense with the prayers of all the saints went up before God and out of the angels' hands. And remember, before, the 24 elders and the 4 living creatures had a harp, but they also had bowls that in them were the prayers of the saints. So just realize your prayers, where are they in relation to how God sees it? They're incense. Incense smells good. God had a particular mix that he told them on earth to make. It would have smelled really good. Be a pleasing aroma. So your prayers are that to God. That's how it's represented here. And the angel took the censer and he filled it with the fire of the altar and he threw it to the earth. So first he takes incense to the altar, then he takes fire from the altar and he throws it to the earth. So we have things happening where and where?
Heaven and earth.
Heaven and earth. Okay? And sometimes you might want to put earth and heaven, and then sometimes you want to put heaven and earth if one starts first and the other comes. And then he throws the fire to the earth, and there were peals of thunder and sounds of flashes of lightning and an earthquake. Another earthquake. You might want to mark it. 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound them. And the first sounded. And what happened?
All hell and
Okay.
fire mixed with blood.
Hail and fire mixed with blood were thrown to the earth. Kind of looks like and sounds like what the angel just did, throwing fire to the earth, right? And what? A third of the earth was burned. A third of the trees were burned, and all the green grass. So with the first trumpet, you've got a third burned, and all grass. So you got earth and trees burned. We've already seen a number back in the seals where there was a fourth of the people were killed. So here you've got a third of the earth affected. Do you think it means a third? Yeah.
I think we take it literally.
I think we need to take it literally. And I really believe that it means a third of all the, it's so specific. Then it says, the second angel sounded, and what? Something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. Okay, so the first one impacts what? Earth, ground, let's say, yeah, grounds with trees and grass. The second one impacts the sea. And what
It
happens?
became blood.
How much?
A third.
A
A third
third.
of the sea.
Okay, so a third becomes blood, okay,
Became blood.
And a third of the sea life dies.
and a third of the sea life dies,
A third of the boats.
and a third of the ships were destroyed. Can you imagine if the sea literally became blood, those ships might be able to move a little bit longer, but eventually their engines would have taken all that in, okay? So, and they were destroyed. And then the third angel sounds, and what happens?
Great star fell from heaven,
Great-
like a torch.
Burning like a torch, and it fell on.
Third of the rivers.
Okay, so here
Springs of
we
water.
have rivers affected,
And springs of water.
and rivers and streams, and a third of those are impacted. How?
With, came like wormwood.
Yeah, and the name of the star is called wormwood, and a third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died for the waters because they were bitter. Okay, so a third of the fresh water is affected and they become bitter, the wormwood. Interesting note, this word wormwood in Russian is called Chernobyl. Isn't that interesting?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. And we all know what happened there.
Right.
Then it says a fourth angel sounded, and a third of what?
The third of the sun and moon.
Okay, so you've got
And a third
a
of the
third
stars.
of the sun, moon,
Stars.
and stars. And what does it say happened to them?
They were struck.
Struck and darkened. Okay,
And the day would not shine for a third of it.
right.
Mm.
Interesting.
The night in the
And then,
sun.
yeah. And I looked and I heard an angel flying in mid-heaven saying with a loud voice, whoa, whoa, whoa. So you've got whoa, whoa, whoa.
To those who dwell on the earth.
Yeah, to the earth dwellers, right? Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, but how many were there total?
There were
7. And so now we've got whoa, whoa, whoa coming. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yes. And because of the remaining blast of the trumpets of the 3 angels who were about to sound. So each of these trumpets sounding, or each of these angels sounding, is the idea of an angel with a trumpet sounding that trumpet, and as a result of sounding the trumpet. But where did these angels come from? It was when the 7th seal was broken that the 7 angels came out and given trumpets, and then these trumpets were sounded, 4 so far, and then whoa, whoa, whoa to the earth dwellers. Now, make the connection between the angel in heaven with the censer, first with incense and then with fire. What did he do? Threw it to the earth. And all of, like here you've got fire, and you've got fire. So you see that picture of the angel thrown into earth, and then it starts happening with these trumpets sounding. Okay, in chapter 9, what do you see?
Fifth angel. The first one.
Okay, so you have the 5th angel sounding, and and as we go to the end of it, the first woe is past, right? Okay, and that's the end of it, but it's saying, in the 5th angel sounded, what happens? Star, which had fallen to the earth, key of the bottomless pit was given to him. He opened the bottomless pit, so if you drew your bottomless pit, you just have nothing down there, and you've got this bottomless pit. The key to that was given to him, which indicates that it was shut up. And he opened the bottomless pit, and what happened? Smoke went out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the smoke. It kind of reminds you of what? Like a volcano kind of erupting? Not that that's what it's saying. I'm just saying you've seen poofs of ash and then smoke and all of that. I'm not saying this is a volcano, I'm just saying it kind of, something that we can relate to. Out of the smoke came what? Locusts upon the earth, and powers was given to them
Scorpions of the earth.
as the scorpions of the earth have. So you have locusts with the idea of, like scorpions have power. What's scorpion's power?
They can sting you.
And sting you, right?
And it
It hurts from what I hear, right? And they were told that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, nor any green thing, or nor any tree, but only men who do not have the seal on their forehead. What seal is this?
Seal of God.
The seal of God that we saw 7, chapter 7, that's on who? Only the 144,000 are sealed, right? We have seen a seal. Men are sealed. The only seal we've seen, only ever seen. Don't make this, because a lot of people do, make this into more. It says the only ones we've seen so far are the ones in chapter 7 that were sealed with the seal of God. And remember, those angels were held back until they were sealed. And as soon as we see that, the next thing we see is the earth is being harmed. Okay? So, impacted directly. But it says, they're not, okay, what would a locust normally do? Eat these things. So they're told not to do your normal, and you're not to hurt any of those things, but you can only hurt the men who do not have the seal of God on their forehead.
But they couldn't kill them.
And they were not permitted to kill anybody, but only to torment for, finally have a time phrase. Okay, so for 5 months, torment.
That's a break from normal time periods.
Yes, we haven't seen that said like this before. But they're able to torment, and then it says, and their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it stings a man. So
It's a locust.
And it's a locust, right, because that's the power they were given. And in those days, men will seek death and will not find it, and they will long to die, and death flees from them. This is not easy. This is not light. This is really bad, right? And their appearance, and it goes on, like horses prepared for battle. Can you, I mean, did you try to draw this? A locust with the power of a scorpion, and they were like horses prepared for battle. What would a horse prepared for battle look like?
The armor.
It could have, like, yeah, you could have armor on. It's saddle, leather, all of that. Maybe something over their faces even. And it says, as it were, crowns like gold, and their faces were like the faces, on their heads, as it were, crowns like gold, and on their faces were like the faces of men. You have a locust with the face of a man, crown on his head with maybe a scorpion tail, or the power of a scorpion that looks like a horse, and looks like, ultimately, that's the first thing.
Huge grasshopper.
I didn't try to draw that, I just wrote it.
Yeah. And then
Hair
there's,
like a woman.
I know, with hair, okay, and they had hair like women, and their teeth were like the teeth of lions, and I always go like this when I do that, and they had breastplates like the breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots, of many horses rushing to battle. This would be loud, and they had the tails like scorpions, that's where, I guess that power is, and it stings, and in their tails is their power to hurt men for 5 months. They have no king over them. And no, I'm sorry, they have as a king over them. Who?
The angel of the abyss.
The angel of the abyss. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek it's Apollyon. Okay, so there's an angel of the abyss. You know that. Well, we know that now. His name, could be Abaddon or Apollyon, depending on which language you're using. And that is the king they have over them. Okay, but remember where they came out of. They came out of this bottomless pit that the angel unlocked, basically seeming like they were being kept back for all this time. I'm really glad. I'm glad I've never seen one of these.
Hope you don't.
Yeah. And then it says the first woe is past. So you can put that after. The first woe is past. And then it says
2 woes are still coming.
2 woes are still coming after these things. So now you see a definite, you've seen some after these things. I hope you're marking them. You see progressions, right? Things have to happen till the next things happen, right? Okay, so after these things. And now we have what?
6
The
angels.
6th trumpet. Sixth angel with his trumpet sounding, and it says,
Release the 4 angels who are bound.
release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. Okay, and the 4 angels who have been prepared for the hour and the day and the month and the year. There's a plan here, right?
Right.
There's a plan. Who knows how long? Probably before the foundation of the world, but we know that there is a plan. They were released so that they might what?
Kill
Kill a third of mankind. What is a common number among the trumpets?
7.
Well, there's 7 of them. but the common fraction is
Oh,
a
okay.
third, a third, and a third, okay? So back here, when all the green grass and the sea is affected, and here we saw people dying. So we've got people dying back there, we've got people dying at least by here. We have torment, but not necessarily, they can't even kill themselves if they wanted to. And then we have here, this one is called to kill a third of mankind. And then it says, the number of the armies of the horsemen was about how much?
200 million.
200 million. Incredible.
I heard the number of them.
Yes, he heard the number of the armies. He wouldn't have been standing there and counting. I'm glad he heard it, I guess, so he could write it down. And it says, and this I saw in the vision of the horses and those who sat on them, the riders. So there's riders on this. The riders had breastplates, a color of fire and hyacinth, and a brimstone, and the heads of the horses were like the heads of lions. And out of their mouths proceed fire and smoke and brimstone, and a third of mankind was killed by the three plagues, by the fire and smoke and brimstone, which proceeded out of their mouths. So you've got these horses, somebody on them, fire, smoke, and brimstone's coming out, and a third of mankind are killed. It says, for the power of the horses is in their mouths and in their tails, and their tails are like serpents and have heads, and with them they do harm. So you've got that tail of that horse that like serpents, almost like Medusa with her hair and all that. And the rest of mankind, which were not killed by the plagues, did not repent of the works of their hands, so as not to worship demons and the idols of gold and of silver and of brass and of stone and of wood, which they can neither see nor hear nor walk. And they did not repent of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their immorality, nor of their thefts.
Do you suppose that this is the little book that John was told to eat and would be bitter in his stomach? Seeing these things?
Well, I think that's a separate thing, but it kind of is like the bitter pill to swallow kind of idea. Yeah, but I think it's literal that he was told to eat something, and we're still seeing this, and that is in Jesus' hands as he undoes the seals, and then the rest is happening. So is that the same book? Probably not. But it's something to think about, like what, because we do have more than one book. Is it the same book? Whose books are mentioned? We have to think about that. We haven't gotten to
Certainly is bitter in his stomach.
it is not, again, what have I said to y'all? This gives me the greatest emphasis for wanting to spread the gospel, because already, only in chapters 9, up to chapter 9, we're seeing things that we don't want people having to go through. But so it says here, the rest of mankind who were not killed by the plagues did not repent of the works of their hands. So there's no repentance happening here. So and what does this indicate? It's like it's being said they didn't repent. What all these things kind of indicate that maybe they should. Their hearts are extremely hardened. But shouldn't this be getting their attention?
Yeah, I would think.
What is the response today when a disaster happens on the earth?
No.
Sometimes there's like, it looks like a little bit of people running back to church.
After 9/11, that's what
Right.
happened.
Yeah.
Yes, 9/11 and, even major catastrophes like hurricanes and things like that. You might get people's attention a little bit. You might have a little better attendance in church for a little while. 9/11 did that. Falls off eventually, but unfortunately. But what if someone comes up and says, kind of nationally, maybe this is the hand of God. Maybe we need to repent. Maybe God's hand is withdrawing from the nation and he's not going to protect us as much anymore. What happens to that person? Oh,
Nothing good
yeah,
now.
it's not good at all.
You're not gonna have any leadership doing this.
We don't have leadership doing that. People respond very negatively to that, tell them they need to stop and not saying anything. Now, would you agree with me if in a case like that I said, I know that God is doing it for this reason? I'm not going to say that, but I can say maybe we need to wake up. Maybe God's trying to get our attention. Maybe this is the idea of God's hand being raised, protection hand being raised, and we're going to be impacted further and we deserve it. Right? Those kinds of statements. But if that is said today, that person's basically, their head's cut off. Not, well, that's gonna happen, but, you know.
Well,
It's
I think
figuratively.
their head's cut off because they will not bow to Allah.
Yes, in this
We're
day,
seeing that.
we are seeing that, and we're seeing it, and it's horrible, and in children too. And then it says, but look at the activity of this group. They didn't stop, what, worshiping demons. So they've been worshiping demons and idols and all of that can't see or walk, and they didn't repent of their murders, their sorceries, their immorality, and that would be sexual immorality, nor of their thefts. So they're thieves and sexually immoral, and their sorceries and their murders are specifically mentioned, and their idolatry and their worshiping of demons goes really far. Okay, and they're so hardened that they don't repent. Now chapter 10 has what?
Another angel comes in.
Another angel,
Coming out of heaven.
and he's another strong angel. He's coming from heaven, is that what it says? Very good.
Yes.
Okay,
Clothed with a cloud.
and this is on, 9 is on earth, by the way, we didn't say that. You clothed with a cloud, okay? And he has a rainbow upon his head, his face was like the sun, his feet were like pillars of fire. I haven't had an angel described that way before. He's strong also. And he has a little book which was opened, and he placed his right foot on the sea and on the land. So we've got this on earth again also. He has this book, and he cried out with a loud voice as when a lion roars. And when he had cried out, the 7 peals of thunder uttered their voices. So you can put your 7 peals of thunder on there. And they uttered their voices, and John was about to write it down. So John heard whatever it was, and he was told not to write it down, right? Do not write down. And the same angel we were talking about, on the sea and on the land, lifted up his right hand to heaven, and he swore. So I have an angel with his hand raised up like this, swearing by
Him who lives forever.
him who lives forever, right? And yes. And it says, and in the days of the voice of the 7th angel. Okay, so what would that be? We've got 6 angels that have done what? Blown their trumpets. We don't have yet the 7th angel, right? So it says, in the days of the voice of the 7th angel, when he is about to sound, that would sound his trumpet, then the mystery of God is finished. So in the days of that 7th angel, the mystery of God is finished, as he preached to his servants, the prophets. The mystery of God was preached to his servants, the prophets. So what should we be looking into? The prophets, right? And where would we find those prophets? Yeah. In the Bible, correct? Or their books.